All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro podcast. This is the business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name's Jerry Kennedy. I'm your host. So what I wanted to talk about today on this episode is I wanted to talk about common objections that people have about chiropractic. Wanted to talk about that, whether they were fair or not, just give you a brief response to those objections. I wrote an article recently that I posted on the Rocket Chiro blog that covered this content, and I thought it would also make an interesting episode or a good episode for the podcast. So if you want to read the full article, you can go to the Rocket Chiro blog and you can find it. It's an article that's called Common Objections to Chiropractic. Are they fair? But if you listen to this, you'll pretty much get my idea about it. So maybe that would be a little bit redundant. Before I get into that, I do want to say if you want a better chiropractic website, if your website is not doing anything for you, maybe you don't have a website at all, or maybe it's just a crap junk thing that you're paying too much money for, the Rocket Chiropractic websites are affordable and they just simply work. They're really good at attracting new patients and helping people go from non-patient to patient. So if you would like to up your website game and go from something that's not helping you to something that is helping you, go to Rocket Chiro, check out my websites, reach out for help. I'd be glad to help you if I can. While you're there, if you want help with your Google ads or with your search engine optimization, that is also something that I do. If you just are curious about where you stand and how I can help you, one of the best ways to do that is to take a free practice assessment. I'll take a look at your website, take a look at your SEO, make some recommendations based on what you're looking for or what your goals are at the moment. It's completely custom to you. It's also completely private and there's no obligation. So the practice assessment is a really great option for people who are just, they need help, but they're not necessarily sure where to start. I'd be happy to look at your stuff and give you some recommendations. Last thing I'll say is this is if you're getting started or you're feeling stuck, check out my Next Step program. That's what it's there for. It's an awesome program. It's affordable. It's for chiropractors. It doesn't make any sense for you to try to figure out things on your own that have already been figured out for you. You're going to get a really good, solid foundation for running your small business, which is your chiropractic practice. So if you're feeling stressed, you're feeling overwhelmed, you kind of know you've bit off more than you can chew at the moment, or you're getting ready to, check out my Next Step program. You'll be happy that you did. All right, so what I did with the common objections is I went on ChatGPT and just asked the bots, I asked the AI, what are the common objections to chiropractic? This is what AI barfed out, and so those are the things that I addressed. So objection number one, we'll jump into this. It was the lack of scientific evidence. What ChatGPT said is critics argue that there is insufficient evidence, scientific evidence supporting the efficacy. I just had trouble with that word. That's my Christian school education coming back to bite me. Efficacy of chiropractic care for many of the conditions it claims to treat, especially for non-musculoskeletal issues. I have two thoughts about this. I have a couple thoughts about it, but my first thought is this, is that when people argue that there's not enough scientific evidence for chiropractic and therefore like whatever we do as chiropractors need to have some sort of double blind study or some sort of high end research to validate it. That's not really the bar that medicine sets for itself. So that's not really fair. Chiropractic, medicine, surgeries, whatever, there's a combination of scientific evidence and anecdotal evidence that's really common. And if somebody's going to hold chiropractic to that standard, that's just not fair. And I don't care if you're a chiropractor, a medical doctor, you're a skeptic, or you're pro chiropractic. If that's the standard, like some sort of scientific high-end double-blind test, otherwise it's not real, you're just being unrealistic and you're just being ridiculous. The other thing I'd say about treating non-musculoskeletal issues is there's two aspects to this within chiropractic. There are chiropractors, because so many chiropractors do so many different things. There are chiropractors who have received extra training to do non-musculoskeletal issues, and that's where they focus most of their practice. Now, hopefully they have received that extra training. That extra training is valid. They are good at what they're doing. There's a lot of ifs and buts and, that sort of thing that are in there. But there are chiropractors out there who choose to practice non-musculoskeletal care, and it's more of holistic care than it would be considered traditional chiropractic, but they are still chiropractors. And as long as they're doing good work, which I'm not here to criticize individuals because I don't know what individuals are doing, but as long as they're doing good work, alternative healthcare, non-mainstream care doesn't automatically make something hubbub. So I don't also think that that's a really great argument. I also will say traditional chiropractors, if a traditional chiropractor is helping people with non-musculoskeletal issues, it's just a side effect. Their philosophy is that they are going to correct the spine and correct the alignment and allow the body to heal itself. Any non-musculoskeletal benefit, frankly, any musculoskeletal benefit that comes from that is secondary. That's not their primary purpose. So I think that there's a combination of things going on here. One is the unrealistic expectations or standard for what evidence is, and two, a misunderstanding of what chiropractors actually do. And I think that unfortunately this could be a barrier for some people, but generally the people who have this objection, they're probably not going to see a chiropractor anyway. And you're probably fighting against the wind. You're arguing against people who just don't like chiropractors, and they're making this argument because they're trying to prove that chiropractors isn't a real profession. Chiropractic objection number 2 is overemphasis on spinal manipulation. Chiropractic care primarily focuses on spinal manipulation, but some medical professions argue that this approach is too narrow and not suitable for treating a wide range of conditions. Once again, I don't know that the same two people are making this argument, because if you're saying that chiropractors are doing out of their scope of practice and kind of whatever non-scientific stuff, and then you say that they're being too narrow with what they're doing because they're only doing chiropractic adjustments or manipulation or whatever you want to call it, you're kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth. The thing that I would say about this is the way chiropractors adjust and why they adjust is the thing that makes us unique as a profession. And anyone who criticizes a chiropractor for focusing primarily or exclusively on the adjustment is just being silly. I think it's a silly argument. I think that it's like saying dentists focus too much on teeth. That's just dumb. So I don't think that's a good argument. And anybody that says it is just saying it to say it. Chiropractic objection number 3 is risk of injury. ChatGPT said there are concerns about potential risk associated with spinal manipulation, particularly in the cervical region. Some studies suggest they can lead to serious complications like stroke, spinal cord injury, and although these occurrences are rare. So even ChatGPT is talking out of both sides of its mouth, of its little virtual AI mouth, by saying that chiropractic is dangerous, but also these things are very rare. Now, a lot of people can argue that these things don't happen at all, except in exceptions of the case, not the norm. I'm not even here to argue the point. Anyone who says that chiropractic is dangerous and that's why they're not going to do it. If you're wholeheartedly saying that chiropractic is dangerous, you don't understand chiropractic. It just isn't. Our insurance rates are low because it's not dangerous. Like, the insurance companies don't care about us. They just are assessing risk and charging accordingly. Medicine is way more risky than chiropractic. Now, is chiropractic unsafe for some people, and is some chiropractic unsafe for some people? Yes. And that's the responsibility of the patient as well as the chiropractor to evaluate whether a person has some sort of contraindication to their particular care. That's your responsibility as a chiropractor. You should not be a chiropractor who's just pounding down high spots and adjusting everybody, and you just think that innate will sort it out. Like, that's sloppy chiropractic. I don't necessarily disagree with some of the foundational philosophies that are there, but in practice and how you're practicing as a chiropractor, if that's what you're doing, you're just assuming that everybody's better off if they get adjusted, and everybody's a potential patient of yours, and you're not a risk to anybody ever. You are being irresponsible as a chiropractor. So there's sort of two sides of it. To the patients, I would say, calm down. It's not dangerous. To the chiropractors, I would say, make sure you're not doing something dangerous. Objection number 4 is inconsistent training and standards. ChatGPT said the level of training and standards for practice can vary significantly between chiropractors, leading to concerns about consistency and quality of care provided. I got no problem with this. We can move on. What I would say about chiropractors is, if you're going to do something, do it well. If you don't do it well, don't do it until you figure out how to do it better. And if you suck at it, just stop doing it. Just chiropractors across the board. We have a epidemic of poor chiropractic care, and chiropractors giving poor care, even when it's not chiropractic care, even if it's a secondary thing. We should raise the bar. I wish the profession was known for being excellent. That would be pretty awesome. Objection number 5, scope of practice. Some medical professionals, this is ChatGPT, some medical professionals believe that chiropractors sometimes operate outside their scope of practice, particularly when claim to treat conditions unrelated to musculoskeletal system. This is sort of back to what I said before about about the different types of chiropractors and their approaches. I think the bulk of this is a misunderstanding of what chiropractors are trying to do. Wellness chiropractors, subluxation based chiropractors, that niche of chiropractors that is going to be more likely to see non-musculoskeletal conditions are not claiming to treat those conditions. And if the patient thinks that, they're being misled either accidentally or intentionally. There are some chiropractors out there who intentionally mislead people, and I'm not an advocate of that at all. And I don't think the profession as a whole would ever try to defend that group of people. But I think the scope of practice with the chiropractic is just we've done a bad job of explaining the different ways that chiropractic can benefit people, musculoskeletal and non-musculoskeletal. So I think that this is probably just a misunderstanding. Now, there are some chiropractors, I said it once again, there are chiropractors who choose to practice non-traditional chiropractic, and they're doing things to treat holistically and, alternative medicine wise, they're treating non-musculoskeletal conditions. And that's what they would claim to do. That's what they are doing. And that's sort of a smaller sect of chiropractors. But that would not be considered traditional chiropractic. Anybody, they should, if you're discerning at all, you should understand the difference. So number 6 is the promotion of unproven therapies. ChatGPT said chiropractors may sometimes promote treatments or dietary supplements that lack scientific backing, leading to skepticism among the medical community. Once again, I got no problem with that. Chiropractors, there seems to be, chiropractic seems to attract a certain type of person. And there's a kind of a hippy dippy life. You are light, you are God, you are the light, energy, whatever. Like that sort of person is really attracted to chiropractic. And it's probably because of the traditional philosophy. And as a result of that, there are some chiropractors out there that are on the fringe, and I wouldn't consider these normal chiropractors or even the average chiropractor. There are chiropractors that are on the fringe who they really want, it's like a conspiracy theorist, like they just want they want to know something that you don't know. They want to recommend something that other people don't recommend. They want to be like smarter than they are. They want stuff that traditionally works to not work because that's medicine or because that's whatever. The people like that also generally tend to just crap on medicine in general as if medications don't work. That's such an ignorant approach as a chiropractor and philosophically, because medicines do work. The question about medicines is, do they work well enough to warrant the danger that they present? Because anytime you take a medicine, there's always the side effects that come along with that. There's always a cost benefit with everything you do in life. The objection, the fair objection that alternative healthcare providers should have about medicine and surgeries and things of that nature are not whether they're effective or not, but whether the risk warrants, the effectiveness warrants the risk. And if something is available that is like chiropractic or perhaps dietary changes or a supplement or whatever that offers much less risk for the same amount of effectiveness or close to the same amount of effectiveness or better effectiveness, then wouldn't that make sense for us as a whole, as a society, to kind of do that first? So it's sort of conservative care first, less conservative care last. Like that should be our thought. And I wish society as a whole, that was their thought, because that is, it's sort of a logical way of going about risk assessment and making decisions. This is true for your health. It's true for your business. It's true for your family. It's true for your life. Objection number 7 is cost and insurance issues. It says chiropractic care can be expensive. Not all treatment is covered by insurance, leading to concerns about cost effectiveness, especially with long-term or frequent visits are recommended. One of the things that I said to patients and I've said to people over the years is no one goes broke going to the chiropractor once. The reason chiropractic care is expensive is because of the repetition that's required in many cases when you're first starting chiropractic care. And so what should happen with time is as initially you're going to see the chiropractor more, and as time goes on, you should see the chiropractor less. Now, there are some chiropractors who think you just need to be adjusted once a week for the rest of your life or multiple times a week for the rest of your life, because if one adjustment is good, then more adjustments is more good. I disagree like very, very strongly with that. I don't think that it is, I don't think you're being intellectually honest with yourself when you really think through that process. You can't on one hand say, the body needs no help. It just needs no interference. You can't say that, what we're trying to do is remove interference. You can't say all of that stuff and then say that you need to adjust someone all the time. One of the things I really enjoyed about the upper cervical kind of segment of chiropractic is that there was a lot of emphasis on holding an adjustment and not needing an adjustment. Most upper cervical chiropractors that I know, maybe I would say probably all of them that I know, would tell you that their objective to care is to get a patient to where they're holding the adjustment and they don't need to be adjusted. The idea is that if you're in a state of not needing to be adjusted, your body's healthy. If you're in a state of needing to be adjusted, then something is wrong and you have to intervene at that point. So if you're getting adjusted every single week for the rest of your life, that essentially means that you're not holding your adjustment and you're kind of going in and out of more healthy, less healthy. That's sort of how that is. Now, I know that there's some thoughts about how the adjustment, the endorphins and the proprioceptions and all blah, 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 whatever. Like, I understand that there's other things that are going on with the adjustment. I'm getting off on a sidetrack, but the reality is what should happen. I think what should happen in most cases, whether someone is doing long-term care, whether someone is a wellness patient, or whether someone is just doing chiropractic for treatment, what should happen is you're going to go in initially a little bit more and you should tailor off as time goes on, which means chiropractic is more expensive initially and it should become very affordable and much less expensive as time goes on. And so I don't know that the insurance not covering it is really a major issue. I don't think it should be. Now, there are some chiropractors who really try to gouge people and try to do some high-end things that may or may not be warranted. But I think overall, most chiropractors are affordable for people, whether they have insurance or not. And there's going to be exceptions to that because there are some people that are just broke, like they're just broke. And that's not, what do you do about that? I mean, I don't know what you do. I mean, you're running a practice, you're running a business, you have to pay your bills. You can't give care away for free for everybody. You have to charge something. And I would say as a general rule, chiropractors don't overcharge. I spent 30 minutes in the ER with my kid when he was younger, and I got like a $1,700 or $1,800 bill. So I don't really think that chiropractic is expensive. Chiropractic objection number 8 is alternative to proven medical treatments. Some patients may choose chiropractic care over conventional medical treatments that have a stronger evidence and potentially delaying appropriate care. This particular objection, I have an issue with the way that this is worded. I have an issue with the whole thing because what you're sort of assuming here is that conventional medicine is better and it has more evidence and that it's more appropriate. So I don't like the wording at all with this. I really just object to the whole thing. And I included it because ChatGPT included it in the list, but I don't like the way that it's worded. There's a lot of assumptions that are built within this. It's sort of testifying as it's sort of declaring things in the process. It's clearly it's sort of an objection that's written by someone who's not being fair. It's just someone who's just crapping. They already hate chiropractic, so this is how they would word this objection. So I don't really. If somebody said this to me, I would just tell them, you just have pre-decided you don't like chiropractic. Like I don't know what else to say. You're not being objective. Chiropractic objection number 9, and it says association with anti-medical sediment. Chiropractic care has historically been associated with an anti-medical segment or distrust of conventional medicine, which can be concerning to those who value an integrated approach to healthcare. These objections reflect a broad debate about the role of alternative medicine in healthcare and the importance of evidence-based practice. Some people find chiropractic care beneficial, especially for certain types of musculoskeletal pain, while others remain skeptical due to these objections. I think that most chiropractors, I don't think it's terribly uncommon to find a chiropractor who's skeptical in the medical profession. Like that's probably, I would say more chiropractors fall in that category than don't. And that doesn't mean that they're not willing to work with the medical profession. That doesn't mean that they think that medicine is bad and no one should take it. That would be more of a fringe view. And if you find a chiropractor who's just completely unwilling to discuss your medicine and your medical treatments and anything that's not what they say, that's a red flag for sure. And if you're doing that with your patients, you are putting yourself in a role in a position that you shouldn't. It just isn't the right way to manage people. What chiropractors should be doing, whether we're doing alternative care and they're doing mainstream, scientific, the real good stuff, whatever we want to call it, we should be working together. We don't want to be doing things that are counterproductive to what a patient is having done with their surgeon or medicine or whatever. And we don't want them doing surgeries and medicines and other things that are counterproductive to what we're doing. The patient's well-being really should be what is in the chiropractor's best interest. And I think one of the things that's difficult for chiropractors is getting to the place where they're comfortable not making decisions for patients. And this was hard for me when I was in practice. The weight of trying to make decisions for patients, it's like you go through your report of findings, you go through your recommendations, you really, really, really want someone to make a particular decision, not only maybe because it benefits you, but also because it benefits them. Like this is what's best for them. And you could present people with the best information, do the best report of findings, do the whole best thing, and still have people that don't make the decision that you would make. And it's important that you give people the space to do that. And it sort of falls in line with this, where it's like, regardless of your feelings about a particular surgery or doctor or medicine or whatever, your job is to educate and inform and sort of guide your patients and help them through this process of becoming well and becoming better, while understanding that they're an adult and they're going to make decisions that might be completely different than the decision that you would make, even with the exact same information that you have. So it's important to do that. And I would say to any patient, if you have a chiropractor that's so anti-medicine that they can't discuss things in just a fair light and an honest light, that I would find another chiropractor. If you're a chiropractor who's doing that, you need to be a little more comfortable operating in a philosophical gray area. You're choosing a hill to die on that you probably shouldn't. So those are the 9 objections to chiropractic that ChatGPT came up with. What I want to say this in closing. I think that chiropractors as a general rule are too insecure. And I think there might be 2 reasons for that. One is valid and one is not. I think the valid reason for a chiropractor to be insecure is that you're not good at what you do, or you're not as good at what you do as you should be. And I think that it's okay to be a little insecure. I mean, when you first get started in practice, or maybe you're learning a new technique or you're learning a new treatment protocol or something, it's very logical and it makes a ton of sense to be a little overwhelmed and maybe feel like a little bit of a fraud. This is one of the reasons that when I talk about next step, I say, hey, if you're feeling kind of struggling, you're feeling like overwhelmed, you feel, like you're a little anxious about running a business, that is a good indicator, a very honest indicator that you need to learn some things. You need to make some better habits. You need to change some things. Like you need to raise your bar of excellence. So there is some insecurity that comes with being a noob and maybe not being as good at something as you should be. And if you're committed to growing and becoming excellent and whatnot, I think that sorts itself out with time, because you become better. And as you become competent, that insecurity goes away. I mean, the things that you're good at, you tend to be very secure in. It's weird to be insecure about something you're good at. So I think that that's the starting point for all chiropractors. And I would encourage all chiropractors, and this is why I do, not only for the patient and for our profession, but for yourself. Be excellent, be committed to be excellent at what you do. whatever you're doing, just be good at it. You don't have to be good at everything, but be good at the stuff that the moneymaker stuff, the stuff that's most important for your practice. You need to be really good at that stuff. Now, the other unfair reason that chiropractors are insecure is just because they're insecure about the profession as a whole. Maybe they're embarrassed about the quote unquote lack of scientific evidence. Maybe they're embarrassed about not being a quote unquote real doctor. Maybe they're embarrassed about dumb things that DD Palmer or BJ Palmer did or thought when they didn't. Maybe they're embarrassed about other chiropractors and the dumb things that they do. I don't think that it's fair, and I don't think that it's helpful for chiropractors to be embarrassed about being a chiropractor. Chiropractic works. It works really well. The satisfaction rates amongst people who go to chiropractors is so much higher than any medical profession could ever even hope for. It works really, really well. And even when you aren't very good at chiropractic, I mean, even students and new docs who maybe aren't as good at their skills as they will be in the future, they still will get good results. I think our profession as a whole just needs to not be so insecure about being a chiropractor. I think we should just be proud of it. We oftentimes try to hide the fact that we're a chiropractor. We don't tell people we're a chiropractor, or we're apologetic about being a chiropractor. People who think that you're not a real doctor, or you're not really helpful, or you're not, like, your role in the healthcare industry or the community is not legit or not important because you're a chiropractor, those people are either ignorant, like they just don't understand and know chiropractic, or they're just dumb. They're just stupid, and they're purposely having angst against chiropractic for no reason other than they're just looking at evidence and blindly coming to the conclusion that, well, you're not a real doctor because you're not blah, blah, blah. You don't have an MD behind your name. You don't work at a hospital or whatever. Chiropractic works. It's awesome. It really is. And most chiropractors became chiropractors because their life was altered by a chiropractor. We have a rich history of that. And one of the things that chiropractic will reward you in spades is the satisfaction of genuinely making a difference in people's lives. It's incredible. So I just wanted to close all of this when we're talking about objections to chiropractic to say, even if you don't have a good response geared up for someone when they say something to you that you've never thought about, or you've never come up with a good answer for, or whatever, maybe you're not even sure what the answer is. I just want to say they don't have the answers for all the questions of their profession and their life and their belief systems. They don't. Nobody does. And so just don't be insecure about the profession. Don't let society's feelings, or even just a few people, their feelings about chiropractic, undermine your confidence in the profession. The profession is great. It makes a massive difference in people's lives. And if you're falling short, maybe that could be your own issue, that you just need to step up your game and you just need to be better at what you're doing. But don't be insecure about being a chiropractor. We should be more proud about being a chiropractor. And I went through this when I was younger and when I was in practice. Like, there was times where I was just sort of insecure about being a chiropractor. And I look back at that and go, how that's so silly. I should have been more proud of it sooner, because we really do make a difference. And the people who just insist that we don't, they're either not being honest or they're just being malicious, because it's just not true. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the likes, the comments, the subscribes. If you want to leave a review for the podcast, you can do that in Apple Podcasts. If you want to leave a review for Rocket Chiro, you can go to Rocket Chiro and click on the review us button that is in the main menu. That'll take you to Google. If you want help at all, please reach out to me. I'll help you with your website, SEO, Google Ads, whatever. Like, I'll help you however I can. I'm definitely looking for more clients. I'm looking to grow Rocket Chiro. So if I can help you at all, I'll be glad to do it. If I can, I won't. And I'll tell you that I can. I try to stay in my lane. I try not to put square pegs in round holes, but if I can help you, I'll tell you how I can. And generally speaking, my pricing is fair. It's affordable, and you get a good result. Anyway, I'm done. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you on the next episode. See you.